Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to talk about 5 things that I really don't care about now that I drive an electric vehicle. Hi, my name is Mike. I'm from Greenway Electric and I've been driving electric vehicles since 2013. And there's a few things that really just don't even cross my mind anymore now that I drive an electric vehicle. And I thought I would share those with you today. So the first one is really a topic that comes up a lot when you talk to your friends or you talk to coworkers, and that is, did you see the price of gas today? Did you see how much it went up? It's gone up by this much per gallon or liter. It's outrageous. Look at how much it's going to cost. It's going to cost me over $100 to fill up the tank. And that's something I used to worry about when I was driving my gas vehicle. I'd pay close attention to the gas prices. I'd try and strategize and figure out, do gas prices typically go up on the weekend? So you should probably fill up on Thursday before the weekend comes, or you wait till Monday or Tuesday and maybe they drop by a few cents, and I could think of those types of things. But that just doesn't even cross my mind anymore. When someone mentions that to me in the workplace or in my personal life, I don't really know what the gas price is right now, and I haven't really looked recently. But I sympathize with them, of course. It's too bad. It's going to cost $100 to fill up the tank, or 130, or 150, or whatever it is. And I used to be in that situation too. I'd fill up my gas tank once a week or even more. And that's one of the reasons I went to electric vehicles, is because they are so much less expensive to fill up. Of course, it's with electricity and not with gas. So that's something I just really don't look at anymore. I really don't care about anymore. I care about it as a caring person for my family and friends who are driving gas-powered vehicles, but for myself, it's really nothing of concern to me. Okay, the second thing that I really don't care about anymore is driving economically. And I don't mean I drive like a crazy person, like a race car driver, but before, when I was driving my gas vehicles, I'd always try to drive economically. You don't want to slam on the accelerator too quickly. You don't want to slam on the brakes. You don't want to drive erratically. And I'd even try to drive at the speed limit or even a little bit lower than the speed limit if it was safe to do so. Of course, if I was holding up traffic, I would keep up with traffic. But if there was an opportunity to go a little bit under the speed limit to increase my fuel economy, I would do that because I was doing a lot of highway travel. And if you keep your speed to 55 miles an hour or 90 kilometers per hour as opposed to faster, your fuel economy can improve a fair bit. And those are different things I would try to do to maximize the number of miles or kilometers I would get out of my fuel tank. And it was quite successful, actually. I even had a device called a scan gauge, which I'm not even sure if that's still available. I hooked it up to my gas vehicle and it would analyze my fuel economy. I would do the calculations, figure out what my economy was for every tank and understand what that was. And I know in the winter it decreased significantly, and then when spring came around, the fuel economy increased. And so I was always trying to drive as economically as possible for that reason. But with the electric vehicle, really, if you're saving 5% or 10% of your electricity cost, you're saving pennies, maybe a couple of pennies per day, and it's really not worth your while. So now with the electric vehicle, not are they only faster, zippier, and quicker, so that means they're really quick at keeping up with traffic. I just go with the flow, I go with the traffic, and usually most people are going about 10 over the speed limit, and so I just kind of keep up with that and don't worry about fuel economy or electron economy, I guess you could say, because it's really not saving very much money at all. It's just really, there's no logical reason to drive economically. But just to reiterate, of course, I'm not driving like a race car driver. You don't want to drive erratically or unsafely, but we're just keeping up with traffic and not trying to be extra conservative in the way I'm driving, extra cautious. The next thing I don't care about anymore is keeping track of car maintenance. That's something I'd have to keep track of, right? You've got that little sticker in your window. It tells you your next oil change is due by September 2024 or by 123,000 miles or kilometers or whatever it is, and you have to sort of keep track of that. And you get those emails or text reminders from the dealership saying, hey, your vehicle should be ready for an oil change soon. Come on in, make an appointment. And of course, that's something we lived with our whole lives. That's what we grew up with, right? So, we didn't question it. And then you go in for your appointment, and I usually drop off the car in the morning. So you drive in to the dealership and you drop the car off, and then you go into the shuttle van and they'll drive you to work, and then you work your day. And then they'll give you a call when your car is ready, and then you get picked up by the shuttle van again and get driven back to the dealership and pick it up and pay for your service and then drive it home. And all that seemed fairly convenient actually when you had the shuttle van driving you back and forth. But I totally skipped that entirely now. I don't do that at all. Sometimes I would be doing my own oil changes, so that would save me time from having to go to the dealership. But then, of course, that's me who's crawling under the car and draining the oil and changing the oil filter. What I do now is nothing. I don't do any of that stuff. I just drive my car and it keeps on going and it doesn't need any oil changes. It's not 100% maintenance free. It needs tires every once in a while and it will eventually need brakes or suspension work, but none of those things are needing as much maintenance as your regular oil changes in your car. So I just don't keep track of those things, and I don't have to worry about them. Don't need to spend time running in to get the oil changed on a regular basis. The next thing I used to worry about or dread doing in the winter months when it's really cold outside is having to fill up my car with gas. And of course you probably do what I do, which was you'd go to work and come home and then go to work and come home, and you can see the gas gauge slowly going down as the week progresses, and eventually you get to the point where you say, yeah, I guess I'd better fill up with gas. So then you make the trip to the gas station, and I would typically go to the self-serve ones. I suppose I could have gone to the full-service ones to prevent this, but sometimes I'm stubborn. I like to do things myself. So I typically went to the self-serve gas station and crawl out of my car. And in the summer, it's fine. It's not a big deal. It's nice to be standing outside. But in the winter, it can get super cold. You got the wind blowing, and then you've got snow, and it's freezing cold, and it's really unpleasant. And it only takes 5 minutes or so to fill the tank with fuel, but in those 5 minutes you can sure get pretty cold. And with the electric vehicle, I don't have to do that anymore. I do the same thing every day. I come home, I plug it in my garage and go inside, and that plugging in process takes about 10 seconds, summer, winter, and it's never a cold process. So it's just something I do, and I always start in the morning with a full tank. And some of my other videos suggest not doing that. But I do a lot of driving every day, so I do need to really refill it every day. But yeah, that's what I do. I just come home, plug it in, and go inside the house, and I don't even know how long it takes to charge because it's full in the morning. And I don't even worry about it, so I just skip the entire unpleasantness of having to fill up the gas tank in the winter. And the other thing that I don't miss as well is, you know what happens sometimes with those gas nozzles. Sometimes a bit of gas gets spilt, maybe not by you, but by the previous person. And there's a bit of gas on the handle, or maybe your feet step on a small puddle of gas or something. You got that stinky gas smell on your feet or your hands, and that just doesn't happen anymore with the electric vehicle. The last thing I don't care about anymore now that I drive an electric vehicle is I don't worry about whether it's going to start or not. And I know with modern gas vehicles, they're really pretty good actually with starting because of the fuel injection systems, which have been around for decades now. But if you're like me, you'll remember back in the old days, you have a system to start your car in the winter. What do? Do you pump it twice and start it and then pull out the choke? Or do you pull out the choke and pump it once and start it? Or do you pump it once and hold the pedal halfway and start it? And we all had our tricks on how to start those carbureted cars over the years. I'm sure you remember that. And they would sometimes start and they would sometimes not start, and they would sometimes be ornery and not want to start. But what you certainly don't want to do is run the starter too long and run the battery down, and then you can't even get your car started. So we all learned our tricks. And I'm sure if your parents gave you your first car, they probably said, okay, when you start the car, what you need to do is pump the gas twice, hold the gas pedal down a quarter of the way, and then turn the starter, and then hope. And really, that's what we did. A lot of the time, I would say any of those cars in the 80s and earlier, we were just hoping that they would start in the winter. I realize that's a few decades ago now, so for some of you, you might not remember that. And more recently, of course, the fuel-injected cars are actually really pretty good starting in the winter, so it's not really a concern. But the same thing with the electric vehicles. You just press a button and it starts. I mean, it doesn't even make a noise. It just beeps at you and tells you it's running. You have to have a light on the dash to indicate that it's actually running. So you don't have to worry about it starting in the winter. It just always does. And on top of that, You don't have to wait for the engine to warm up. You just turn on the heat on full and it spits out some heat really quick. And then, of course, many of the cars, or I think all the cars, you can program them so that they are preheated by the time you get out to them, so you're jumping into a warm car when you leave in the morning. So those are a few things that I don't care about anymore now that I drive an electric vehicle, and it sort of is stress-free. How about you? Do you drive an electric vehicle, and is there anything else that maybe you might want to add to this list? Leave me a comment. And if you found this video interesting or informative, I'd appreciate a thumbs up and consider subscribing for future videos. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.